We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Joe Judge is out in New York, Mike. He's gone. It's over. We're screwed. The 3rd and 9 call, maybe that was a part of it. Maybe it was, you had veterans retiring in the preseason. You have veterans running laps in the preseason. There was a lot of things that kind of probably led to this, right? Like 10-23 in his tenure in New York, 4-13 this past season. Ultimately, does not pan out in New York for Joe Judge. Gettleman retiring. Joe Judge fired. My biggest thing is it's hard to speak to what Joe Judge did, right? I think he obviously rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but when you're as sharp of a coach, right?
It's very easy to speak to what Joe Judge did, to be honest.
Maybe you're right. I mean, I guess I just feel that Joe Judge is taking 99.9% of the hits when Gettleman is responsible for so much of this. Daniel Jones pick, Saquon Barkley pick, how they've spent in free agency. This roster wasn't good. And I'm not saying Judge did all the right things. I'm not saying that at all. But I don't think we should be shifting 99% of the blame on Joe Judge. Joe Judge came in, hard-nosed, had a culture that you either like or you don't. And I'll tell you what, the Belichick way, right? Everyone talks about the Belichick way and it's not working. Brian Flores fired, Joe Judge fired, Matt Patricia fired. Never works. The Bill Belichick way doesn't work when you lose. That's a fact. That's it. The Bill Belichick way just does not work when you lose. Because if you come in hard-nosed and you have fucking 35-year-old dudes running laps when they drop a ball, it's not going to work when you're 4-13 or 10-23 as he's been. So I do think that the Belichick way has been thrown a lot of shade because no one's been able to replicate the on-field success. And oftentimes these coaches are going to bad football teams with bad rosters. So I'm not out on the Belichick way by any means. What I'm more out on is just the position he was put in, right, with Gettleman in this roster, and then just failing to do even the little things to keep this thing afloat, right? I'm assuming he lost a lot of respect in that locker room for the way he approached things and his hard-nosed mentality to a point where ownership ultimately couldn't move forward.
Yeah, I just don't see the edges that Joe Judge was giving you.
Yeah.
He obviously struggled to identify coordinator talent, assistant coach talent. They had some of the most poorly coached offensive line play in the past 2 years.
That's true.
Disaster of hiring Jason Garrett as your OC, just not recognizing the landscape of the NFL and where it's going. And yeah, he's hamstrung by Dave Gettleman. And looking at this list of players on the Giants right now that are making $10+ million a year is an absolute abomination. Logan Ryan, Sterling Shepard, Blake Martinez, Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury, Kenny Golladay, Leonard Williams. They could lose 6 of those guys, and that roster wouldn't even feel it. Yeah.
How many more wins do they have?
They lose 6 of those guys, and they're still 4-13. Yeah. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference. That was just malpractice the way he was throwing money around as a GM. The Golladay, who was he bidding against in that $18 million deal this offseason? No one. That was just poor. It was definitely poorly managed, but then also Joe Judge provided, like I said, no edges, in terms of just culture that he was building. And yeah, he kept saying that he was building a culture, but no one from the outside believed it. No one from the inside believed was vouching for it either. So I said the only reason to keep Joe Judge there is because 2022 has to be a reset year. Yeah. You're in a shitty cap situation. 2022 has to be kind of a clean house on some of those veteran contracts that I just talked about. Clean house on those. Reset this roster. You got a lot of draft picks. It's not going to be good overnight.
Yeah. The coach that they bring in has to be someone they're willing to give a long leash to, right? You cannot bring in someone that you're only committed to 1 year or 2 years for. This is not going to turn around overnight. And you've already seen reports now. I think the owner came out and said, everyone's on the table here. We're not committing to anyone as a starter in 2022. Not Saquon Barkley, not Daniel Jones. We're allowing this person to come in when the GM is hired, and then when the GM is going to be hired, right? They said that, and then when the GM will then pick the coach. that new era, that new regime probably needs to reset at multiple positions, including the players that you just spoke to that are all obviously high paid. But I wanted to, before we get into the NFL awards and all that stuff, use this as an opportunity to talk about Daniel Jones. I posted my first TikTok. It was about Daniel Jones. It was about Joe Judge. I have, I think, 30 followers now. The race is on to have the most TikTok followers. People are dunking on me already. 12-year-olds are saying I'm stupid and I'm ugly. But you're going to bounce back here. I'm going to bounce back. Daniel Jones.
If you can't take some cyberbullying, you weren't cut out for it.
Exactly. I own it. I need it. But what I was saying on this TikTok and what I'm saying now is that you have to, in my opinion, take a quarterback at either number 5 or number 7 if you feel one of these guys is an upgrade over Daniel Jones. Because it just does not make sense. Here's the thing, because here's a counter argument from Giants fans to not do that. No, we need offensive line. Use number 5 on Linderbaum and number 7 on Karlaftis. Build up this team, improve this team, and then get your quarterback. You do that and play Daniel Jones behind an improved roster and ideally like an improved head coach, you're going to go 6-11 next year, 7-10, and at that point you're out on the quarterback class. And then you got to make a decision on Daniel Jones, who's in the final year of his contract, right? Like everyone talks about like, no, all these Giants fans, when I mentioned that, were saying, can't do that. Build up this roster and take a quarterback next year. You're only guaranteed the draft slot you have now, right? And if you go into next year, you could play yourself into purgatory where you might not have an opportunity at a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or one of these top 2023 signal callers. And at that point, you end up making a freaking trade for Sam Darnold or some dumb shit, right? Like you end up doing something dumb because you're not in a position to take one of these top signal callers. So improving slightly with number 5 and number 7 by grabbing, say, Evan Neal and George Karlaftis or whoever it is, I just don't think is the route Giants need to take. They don't need to improve slightly. They need to improve rapidly. And that starts with taking shots at the quarterback position. That starts with taking shots if they like a Ritter, a Corral, a Howell, a Willis, or any of these guys more than they like the prospects of Daniel Jones actually developing in his, 4th year into a starting caliber quarterback.
Yes. I mean, yes. But the thing is, you are a new GM. Kind of have a leash where it's like, oh, we can stay with Daniel Jones, and then you get that quarterback next year too.
Yeah, I'm saying if you get that quarterback next year,
but like
you got to hope that you're drafting inside the top 5 again.
Well, I'm saying if you have that quarterback now, though, that's your leash is tied to that quarterback. Yeah. If you draft him 5th overall,
I get what you're saying.
You're tied to him, kind of like Gettleman was with Daniel Jones. But if you get him second year, which I think that was actually Daniel Jones was Gettleman's second year, you get a little bit longer.
So maybe they're in more of an opportunity then, and I think that's a good counter argument, right? And I think if ownership's like the quarterback you take in this class is your guy, and if he doesn't pan out, you're out, then I'd be a little bit wary, right? Because this quarterback class isn't as good as previous years. But maybe they're one of these teams, right, even with 2 top 10 picks, trade out of one of them and maybe pick up one of these guys at the back end of the first and back end of the or top of the second where the commitment isn't top 10 caliber, right? Like I do think that they would be absolutely foolish with the state of this cap space, right? They're bottom 5 in cap space, bottom 5 next year to not get a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. Like one of these guys back end of the first, if you trade down, top of the second, get a Pickett, get a Howell, get someone to compete with Daniel Jones. It's not Jake Fromm. It's not Mike Glennon. Go get someone that can actually compete toe-to-toe and at least like swing a bat at that position. But that's where my head's at. I think New York wants to improve elsewhere, wants to bank on Daniel Jones improving under this new leadership. But I don't think you can stop taking swings at the quarterback position, especially with how little Daniel Jones has honestly progressed, right? Like how much would you say Daniel Jones has improved from a rookie? I would honestly say he hasn't. Like has he gotten any better from his rookie campaign to now from a production standpoint?
A little.
Okay.
But
fair.
not too much.
Not too much.
So we're going to talk about it with like with Nate Tice later about Mac Jones, kind of like where's the improvement areas. That was Daniel Jones coming out,
I mean, he was seen as a 3rd round pick
out of Duke.
PFF had him as a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like, he was not a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, he was number 6.
3rd round. But it's like he was NFL ready. A lot of things that he needed to do in the NFL, he was already capable of. It was just where can you go from there? Mm-hmm. Like guys who don't know how to sell fakes, guys who don't know how to manipulate a pocket, but have like talent in other ways, can then, if they learn how to manipulate a pocket, learn how to sell fakes better, all these other things, they can go higher. Daniel Jones, I don't know where the room is to grow.
Last thing on the catch and early buzz, now that we're done burying the Giants and Daniel Jones. SpeakPipe, we're going to get the voicemails today. If you have not done it, go to speakpipe.com/tailgate, or it's a link in the description. Leave your voicemails there. We're going to bonus mailbag episodes next week, Wednesday and Thursday, covering mailbag. Definitely get your voice in there. Weight update, officially 179 this morning. You love to see it. We continue to go down. TikTok update. I'm blowing you out of the water. Got my first TikTok up. So those awards are coming down the pike there. Let's get to the NFL awards. And before we do, proud sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast, new presenting sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast is none other than Manscaped. Manscaped, new year, new me. No, sorry, rated R read. New year, no pubes with manscaped.com, which you just love to see. Cheers to 2022 and resolutions you can actually keep. How about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsor at Manscaped is here to save your balls this year and make the ball drop into 2022 the cleanest and sexiest ever. Set the first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code PFF for 20% off plus free shipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with code PFF at manscaped.com. That's our presenting sponsor. No pubes in 2022, baby. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped and use code PFF. It's New Year, no pubes in 2022 with Manscaped. How's the New Year been treating you?
Been great.
No pubes?
Yeah.
NFL awards. Start with MVP.
Yes, sir. It's Aaron Rodgers. And let me give you the stat why. Steve Palazzolo wrote a great article on PFF.com that threw a lot of stats at you, and a lot of good stats about why Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers. Been better than Aaron Rodgers this year. And I do agree, if you're taking value at its face in terms of just like value is points, how your plays led to more points, whatever. Tom Brady has maybe given more value, total value. But Aaron Rodgers was most valuable when it counted most. By that, I mean, Aaron Rodgers did not have a lot of opportunities when it was basically garbage time. Aaron Rodgers wasn't running up scores. Aaron Rodgers didn't have a lot of times where he had to come from behind in the fourth quarter and had obvious pass situations leading, 2-minute drill type drives down the stretch that lead to more pass success historically. It's easier to pass in those situations, has been. Aaron Rodgers, when games were not decided, this statistic right here, when games were within 20 to 80% win probability either way, when it was basically not game over. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers' EPA per play was 0.323. Tom Brady's EPA per play was 0.183.
Wow.
Damn near double. Aaron Rodgers was very good, would bury teams early, and then coast. That was what he did. And that's why they have the number one seed in the NFC, is because he did not need to be great in
blowouts.
Yes. So, Tom Brady, great season. Aaron Rodgers, MVP.
PFF did a great article, specifically Doug Kyde on PFF.com, where they interviewed, or Doug polled all the analysts at PFF and talked to multiple league sources about who should be the MVP. The consensus among league sources was obviously Aaron Rodgers. I think that's a consensus in betting markets as well. He did talk to an exec that felt really good about Tom Brady and also give Joe Burrow his due. The official voting poll at PFF, 46% Rodgers, 42% Brady, and then there was some others that voted for Burrow and Herbert. 4% Herbert, 8% Burrow. I was one of the Burrows. I like Joe Burrow for MVP.
Same.
And he's not. Quinn's obviously on board. And like, he statistically, I don't think even comes close to Tom Brady, right? If you're the fact that you're choosing Joe Burrow is the only reason for that is because he's more important to the Bengals than maybe Brady is to the Bucs or Rodgers is to the Packers. And what Burrow has done, not just to overcome like a bad offensive line, the injury that he had last year, but also his own coaching staff and how he's been positioned with, Zach Taylor running the football a ton of early downs. Like we've talked about that ad nauseum. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, you take him off the Bengals, I don't know if they win 2 games. Like, do they win 2-3 games?
Well, if you're like, if it's Brandon Allen, I don't know if the Packers win 2 games if you take, if you're starting Jordan Love.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But I mean, I still feel that what Joe Burrow has done this year, and I think a lot of it also comes after and it's why he's more deserving for comeback player of the year, which I believe he's the favorite for, or Dak is. It's close. Like, I just feel like coming back from that injury, right? Like, it's a huge, huge thing. Comes back and balls out. And he's literally the number 2 graded quarterback behind Tom Brady. I think Aaron Rodgers ranks 4 or 5 in PFF grade. But like you said, that's the PFF grade at its face value does not take in garbage time, just like passer rating doesn't, just like yards per attempt doesn't. I can get behind the Rodgers pick. I'm not like, are you kidding me? It's Joe Burrow. Aaron Rodgers doesn't deserve a vote. It's like all 3 of these quarterbacks have played well. You have to give it to one of them, right? Like, you're not talking about Jonathan Taylor. You're not talking about Cooper Kupp. It's one of those 3. And I think I'd lean Burrow, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers, are you kidding me? So I think Aaron Rodgers is ultimately going to win it and probably the right pick when it's all said and done, but I'm still sticking Burrow.
We just said probably the right pick.
I'm sticking Burrow. I'm sticking Burrow for Quinn. Plus, because I'm also going to absolutely bury the Bengals in our preview of the Raids. Offensive Player of the Year. I think right now it's between Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. I originally, said Cooper Kupp, and he's been phenomenal this year. The Triple Crown, that's graphic's been thrown around 1,000 times, receiving yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns this year. Like, you should probably give it to him. But I'm going to show some running backs some love. I'm going Jonathan Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year. Behind an offensive line that has battled injuries all year long, and with a quarterback that teams legitimately are laughing at behind the scenes and clown masks at the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. So what Jonathan Taylor has done this year has been truly special in a league where no one runs bell cow shit anymore. It's committee across the board. To get a guy to have as many touches as he did, be it just not only a bell cow on the ground game, but also be heavily involved as a receiver. Jonathan Taylor, my Offensive Player of the Year, showing some love to running backs here at PFF.
Jonathan Taylor, very good. He would be third my offensive player.
Oh, you're going to put Trent Williams in there and be special?
Trent Williams. I'm going to do the PFF, hipster take. I'm going to be that guy. That's what PFF was founded on.
You have to do this when you do it.
Contrarian. I have to be different because I work at PFF now. But Trent Williams. It was the best tackle play I've seen since I started grading at PFF here in 2013. He just was that good. Straight up every single game. Physically on another level than anything we've ever seen in his early to mid 30s. And I think he's finally healthy. It's so many years just being banged up that we saw him, and now he still was banged up a little bit this year, but we saw him 15 games, 98.3 overall grade, the highest we ever get into an offensive tackle. He was fucking the best. Like I said, Cooper Kupp, not the best wide receiver season I've seen. Jonathan Taylor, not the best running back season I've seen. And not grading here. Trent Williams, though, that was the best tackle season I've seen.
He has been phenomenal. I think he'll finish the year with so many PFF awards. PFF award show, I think, is, if you're listening to this now, this comes out Thursday, so it aired last night on YouTube, where we pick MVP, Dwight Stevenson Award, which is kind of our version of the Heisman, and Offensive Player of the Year, and Best Lineman. I think he wins all 4 of those awards for PFF on that one. That aired last night, but we're recording here 5 o'clock on Wednesday before the show. Defensive Player of the Year. Aaron Donald has been PFF's picks nearly across the board. It ultimately got Sam Monson doxxed, which I didn't know what doxxed was. He sent me a Slack and he's like, I just got doxxed for the first time. I was like, dude, what does that mean? And then apparently it's when someone posts your address online. Who the hell? And he said it was because he's dropped a tweet thread about why TJ Watt shouldn't be named the Defensive Player of the Year over Myles Garrett or Aaron Donald. And someone legitimately researched his name and in that thread dropped his address. I've talked about fandom on this show a lot. That is the bell curve of sadistic crazy shit. It's that's the far end, right? That is insane. It's such a talk. The NFL has done an insane, marvelous, well executed job at creating win, lose, or tie, tattoo the Pittsburgh Steelers shield on my neck. I will dox a dude's home if TJ Watt's if he says not votes. He doesn't have a vote. Says TJ Watt's not Defensive Player of the Year. So that was kind of wild. And we've talked a lot about the TJ Watt stuff, but Aaron Donald's still my pick. The most valuable defensive player in football, according to PFF's wins above replacement metric. Also the highest graded defender. I can't go any other way here. As good as TJ Watt was, right? Again, you're talking about a lot of talented players. Garrett, Watt, Donald, all played really well. I like Donald over them all.
That's the thing. If this was Aaron Donald's second year in the NFL and he had a ho-hum rookie season, people would be caking their pants over this Aaron Donald season. He had the most run stops of any defensive lineman in the NFL. 15 sacks from defensive tackle. People would be like, holy shit, a defensive tackle, they're not supposed to get 15 sacks in a season. What's he doing? Who is this guy? But 1,000 snaps, why he doesn't come off the field? Where'd this guy come from? But it's because this is year 7 of him doing it. People are just like, oh, got to go somewhere else. It's no. Ward is one. I mean, should know basic. I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to say here. I lost my train of thought. No, just any prior knowledge, any whatever, should not factor into what happened this season. What happened this season was Aaron Donald was the most dominant defensive force in football. Still. So give me Aaron Donald defensive player of the year.
You love to see it. Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think we can speed through. I don't think there's, unless you're rooting for Mac Jones here, I'm in Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons camp. I think those guys both ultimately win, and I think those two are the rightful winners of the awards.
Yeah,
you could debate Slater, right? Like maybe Rashawn Slater, maybe Creed Humphrey, who's graded really well as a rookie. But from a value perspective, if you throw value into it, I think it's not even close. I mean, Jamar Chase is the offensive rookie of the year.
I think Jamar Chase for what he did. Now, again, I would consider Slater. Would definitely consider Creed Humphrey. Those guys were great for their respective positions. But like Jamar Chase was transformative for a team in what he brought to the table. And it was still like talked about pantheon of, Trent Williams, the best tackle he's never seen. That was the best I've seen a rookie, his high end plays. And now he didn't show up every single week, whatever. But when he did, no rookie has been more impactful for single games the way he was against the Ravens, against the Chiefs. Those were like unheard of performances for a rookie. So yeah, give me Jamar Chase in this one.
Love to see.
And Micah Parsons, obviously, fuck, if you're going any other way.
Javon Holland.
Get your vote.
Trayvon Merrick.
Revoked. No. Don't.
I'm just kidding. I obviously Micah Parsons is the defensive rookie of the year. I don't think you could vote on that award after like week 10. Like literally he locked it up. It was, 10.
So I actually wrote an article on PFF after I think it was week 12. And he was minus 400 after week 12. And I was like, this might be the best bet I've ever seen because he doesn't need to play another snap and he's going to get it. Cowboy, like with a guy playing on the Cowboys with obviously how much hype they get nationally. And he already had 10 sacks at that point.
And he was the preseason favorite, right?
Yes.
He was the preseason favorite.
So for him to be only minus 400, I don't know why I didn't put like more on that shit.
So your next one's for Rent?
Yeah.
Let's get into Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year. My picks. I'm going Mike Vrabel as my Coach of the Year.
I'm going to go Ty. I'm going to go Mike Vrabel. Matt LaFleur.
Oh, come on. Give Vrabel a chance. Give Vrabel a chance.
Going Ty.
All right. Well, Vrabel, then give me your reasoning.
LaFleur, I mean, obviously, like Vrabel led a team, a ton of backups, whatever, all over that roster. We've talked about that a ton. And got them the 1 seed. Also, Matt LaFleur did that too. They lost to Darius Smith. They lost Jair Alexander. They lost David Bakhtiari. Still get the 1 seed. Now, still a lot of that's also he had Aaron Rodgers. Vrabel had Tannehill. But I do think that in terms of edges, in terms of like when to go for it on fourth down decisions, that sort of thing, LaFleur was as good as it got in the NFL this year. And that's a big part of it too. That's why I'm giving him a tie. Giving him a tie. Vrabel, obviously the culture, whatever, fantastic there. But I think LaFleur's offense to scheme what he did around literally one weapon at the receiver position was worthy of this award.
Yeah. I think LaFleur, Vrabel, I think one of those two will ultimately win. I'm going Vrabel just because the injury adversity, right? Losing Derrick Henry, losing Julio Jones for like literally most of the season. A.J. Brown injured a ton. Their offensive line was banged up. Like there was not a lot of reasons for them to be even like playoff competitive, let alone win the division and secure the 1 seed, right? Like they were the best team in the AFC, right? Maybe not like from a power rankings perspective. If you look at like ELO or EPA per play or whatever, they're probably not the best team, and Chiefs are probably winning that one. But finished as the 1 seed, earned that first round bye, which matters so much for actually winning the Super Bowl down the stretch. That is massive. I'm going Vrabel. For executive, I'm going Duke Tobin.
Oh,
I'm going Duke, man. I am, obviously super impressed with what they did in the draft. And I think you have to give a little credence to obviously bring, Joe Burrow and the success that he's had that developed him. Bringing in Jamar Chase and making that pick over Penei Sewell was such a tough selection.
The volatility, can we go back to that one just for a second? Sorry, not to interrupt you, but I did. The volatility around the hostility around that pick.
That's yeah.
Jesus, my bad. The hostility around that pick on draft time
was
insane. It's like, yeah, the offensive line's not, and like I get it. Everyone's worried about his ACL, whatever. Jamar Chase, it was just such a rare occurrence, and I'm wearing the shirt right now, the Roll Tide What Fuck You shirt, that you get a guy's number 1 wide receiver in college that set records with.
Setting records now.
An elite prospect, who is himself an elite prospect, elite athlete, elite whatever, all this stuff, that you get to add him back to that NFL team, that he has a rapport with when, from all we know about the wide receiver position and elite quarterbacks, they harp on rapport, seeing the same stuff, knowing route adjustments, that sort of thing, and how valuable that is to a passing game. That people would be mad that they selected that guy was insane to me.
Yeah. I look at an executive of the year too, right? You have to give it's a 1 year thing, but a lot of it is kind of a body of work. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins in the previous class. I mean, they bring in Hubbard. They drafted Jesse Bates. They signed Trey Hendrickson. They signed Chidobe Awuzie. Two guys that have played really well this season. Jonah Williams is one of the highest graded their highest graded offensive lineman, a guy they drafted in the top 10 a few years ago, and also a top 20 graded tackle. And then obviously Jamar Chase. Like what he did to add in free agency with Hendrickson and Awuzie, and then also adding in the draft with Chase this year has been special. Like the Bengals are not good without the players they legitimately drafted and signed over the last 2 years, period. And like you that sounds crazy. Like, yeah, no shit, they improved. Like that's hard to do though. Like we've seen time and time again, teams break the bank on free agents or draft players that are supposedly supposed to take him to this next level, right? Everyone talks about the hump, like getting over the hump and getting into the postseason. The Bengals did it. Like the Bengals did it with their selection of Burrow and Higgins. And in the following draft, grabbing Chase and moving forward and signing Hendrickson and Awuzie.
Yeah,
like
don't say Jackson Carman.
Yeah, I'm not going to say Jackson Carman. But like this has been a special like 2 year run for the Bengals. So special that they're favored in a playoff game at home. Like that's special, and I think Tobin deserves some love.
He does. And again, to make the pick that was not popular at the time, and pay off such big dividends. But I will go a different route. I'm going Howie Roseman for Executive of the Year, drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round. Yeah, when another pick that people did not like when he drafted him, paying off a offseason that we thought, they were in cap hell. They were in cap hell similar to the Saints, similar to the Falcons. They were not a good spot to get through that. And to now, I'm not sure that this should factor in, but he has 3 first-round picks next year. He has did all this to got back to the playoffs, and now also has draft capital, a ton of draft capital to build for the future, to not go through the sort of, multi-year tank that the Browns did when they were in a bad situation, that a lot of teams go through when you have this highly paid, all of a sudden you kind of have this downturn from a highly paid roster that won the Super Bowl, a lot of those guys aging, to all of a sudden flip that on its head, get a bunch of youth in there, and now have a bunch of picks to go forward. I think Howie Roseman deserves Executive of the Year because of that.
I think Roseman was another name I considered in this spot, right? I wasn't, again, like a lot of these awards, it's not like there's a clear front runner, maybe outside of Defensive Player of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year and Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like there's kind of like obvious choices, but I mean, MVP too, according to betting markets, but we'll see. Let's move off of this awards discussion and talk about the games. Let's talk about the wild card, or what the NFL is trying to brand as Super Wild Card Weekend. And before you do, if you're going into this week without any money on these games and you're in a legal betting state, the few, the proud, we've hit the final week of pro football regular season. I know we're past it. We're into the playoffs, baby. DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to get all fans in on the action for this exciting time on the football calendar. New customers can bet just $5 on any football team to win their game. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets. So let's let's freaking rev up the postseason with a big dub here. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on any football team, college or pro, and win $200 in free bets if they're victorious. That's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's start with the game of the year. Maybe the game of the decade. Saturday, 4:30. Raiders-Bengals. Line opened at 6.5. Guess what? It's down to 5.5 because there's money back in silver and black. And they know that we're going to the game. We're going to have
we will be there.
Pretty big crew. I got like a handful of tickets. My buddy from back home, John Marsh, shout out John Marsh, is coming out to watch the game with us. And we're going to be, I want a 9 a.m. start, Mike. I'm looking at your face right now. 9 a.m. start on the tailgate.
Well,
I don't ask for a lot. Do I ask for a lot? I just dropped my mic, but do I ask for a lot? 9 a.m. start. And Quinn's going to the game too. I got Quinn a ticket.
Because he wants to start at 9 a.m. because he knows that he can go to bed after the game because the Raiders are going to lose.
Exactly.
So I see it. That's a big brain move.
He doesn't want to remember it.
The crew is going to be Eric Eager, David Solfaro, Quinn, you, me, my buddy from back home, a bunch of other PFF people are going. It's the first Bengals playoff game in a while. I mean, we have to do it. And I see it as a win-win. Raiders win. I'm burning the city to the ground. the Bengals win, they're going to burn it down for me. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a phenomenal time. 4:30 kick. So it's around 30 degrees. Sent out a cold weather tweet about Derek Carr, who has struggled with cold weather in his career. I remember those really bad games in Arrowhead. That's a small sample size thing. I kind of tweeted it out just for the banter. Save your likes on that one. Don't like it. Don't retweet it. But like, it is legitimately a conversation with Derek Carr, right? Like, Derek Carr has not played well in cold weather games. This is going to be a bit of a struggle. And the Bengals defense has been good. I'm still betting Raiders money line. And you know why?
Why?
I'm the curse of the Bengals. I'm the curse. If I say they're going to win, they're going to lose. I 100% believe, looking at the camera, I 100% believe the Raiders are going to go into Cincinnati, cold weather, shut up. Derek Carr plays one of the best games of the season, and they beat the Cincinnati Bengals by 10. That's my take.
I don't love 5.5 for the Bengals. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
That seems like too much.
I mean, it was 6.5. That's crazy.
The Raiders were at home last week but they beat the Chargers. Like, Chargers are a solid football team, and the Bengals just have this thing like, do I trust, in cold weather? Like, that's going to be a factor. Do I trust Zach Taylor to still say, hey, Joe Burrow, go out and throw this game?
That's a great
Or
take.
is he going to say it's cold weather? It's just January football. We got to establish the run. We got to win on the ground. That's what I worry about in this game with the Bengals. I still think they win, but 5.5 just seems like too much. I will say pregame, we go to trivia sometimes. I usually go with my friend Rob, but we go sometimes, and we have won probably 15 times over the past year. Yeah. Pretty much every time.
Maybe more than that.
I think of the times we've gone, we've only got second like 2 or 3 times.
Trivia Kings.
One of the other ones. But we save all our gift cards every time. And
this is incredible.
Saturday, if you are in Cincinnati, come to Jefferson Social. We are getting bottle service with all these gift cards pregame. We have over $600 worth of gift cards to this bar that does bar trivia. And so that will be where we're tailgating, because it's going to be cold. And if you're outside tailgating, you're not grilling, there's really no reason to be outside with a weather like this.
Yeah. I mean, I am definitely excited to get inside. And my buddy he's from the Bay Area and now lives in San Diego. He's not excited about the cold either. I don't even think he has a jacket where he could really prepare for this thing. So I do think that
I would just recommend, if you've never been to a cold weather game, at least 3 pairs of pants and at least 3 layers under a jacket.
Yeah. Dress for like 15 to 20 degrees colder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's the rule. Got it. It's good. It's good advice. Good advice. I'm going to be wearing a beer blanket potentially by 10 a.m., but we'll see what I do. That's going to be one of my layers, at least. It's got to be one of the layers. I'm joking, right, that the Raiders are going to go and win by 10, but I do feel that the Raiders are a good matchup. I was talking to Ben Lindsay, who does a lot of the Sunday Night Football broadcast stuff. He works directly with Chris and the executive producers there to put together these packets and prepare Al and Chris for Sunday night. And looking at this game, right, Raiders-Bengals, they don't blitz a ton, but Joe Burrow is super good against the blitz. Joe Burrow has been great against man coverage. Raiders not running maybe as much. I think this could be, with Isaiah Prince going to have to block Max Crosby.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a big reason why I think Zach Taylor's just not going to want to drop back and pass.
Yeah.
Is that matchup. Like, he knows you're not winning that matchup.
It's going to be, I think, a closer game than the 5.5. I think my actual pick is Raiders cover, Raiders win, to make sure Queen City Faithful knows that I'm not going to curse them this week. But I do like how the Raiders match up with the Bengals. I like how Max Crosby matches up with Isaiah Prince. I think I have this as a money line bet. I'm liking the Raiders money line.
You're liking it.
8:15, same day, Saturday, Patriots at Bills. I believe this line opened up at 4.5. It might have been bet down to 3.5 the last time I looked. I could get it's flirting around this 4 and this 3.5. Is the Patriots season over? Are they going to go one and done? Because I kind of like the Bills -4 here, especially if you get -3.5. I think the Bills at home, night game, with how bad Mac Jones has played down the stretch, I think this Bills team rolls.
I do too. I think the Bills win and cover. And it's going to be forecast Saturday in Buffalo. High of 10 degrees.
Yikes.
15-mile-per-hour winds. And so that's not like, first game was so bad that you couldn't pass. This is like the right kind of bad for the Bills, where Josh Allen will still be fine. With that cannon, with the arm he's got, it's not really going to affect his ball as much. Mac Jones, on the other hand, is probably going to be limited to about 10 to 15 yards down the field before that ball starts to move on him. And he starts to not know where that's going with that kind of wind in that kind of weather. So I think that favors the Bills a lot in this one. Now, yes, the Patriots have a much better running game, but you still got to pass the ball at some point. I mean, when they did win in that ugly game, it was still only, 13 or something points. So give me the Bills. Give me the Bills to cover. I think they're the better team.
Josh Allen, too, has played really well down the stretch, kind of opposite to Mac Jones. And the Buffalo Bills officially finished this season with the number 1 ranked defense, pretty much in any metric you look at. EPA per play, rushing yards per carry, passing yards per game, that kind of stuff. They've been phenomenal. I think Mac Jones runs into a buzzsaw here, and the Patriots are one and done out of the playoffs. Sunday, Eagles at Bucks. Bucks are favored by 9. I think that number has been bet down to 8.5. This one's tough, man. I don't hate a little sprinkle. I'm not talking about your mortgage. A little sprinkle on the Eagles money line. Just a sprinkle. We talk about, Howie Roseman, Executive of the Year, Jalen Hurts playing as a top 10 quarterback according to PFF grades this year. Offensive line is good, and the Bucs are down bad right now. Down bad with injuries. They are going to go into this game with not at full strength, not in the receiving core, not on defense with Levante David out. Shaq Barrett, I think, is practicing. Not sure if he's going to play this week, but there are a lot of reasons to at least think the Bucs aren't 8.5, 9 points better than the Eagles, even at home. And I think there is enough reason with probably the odds you'll get, right? You'll probably get it at plus 200 or something in that range. I can look now. Plus 300 for the Eagles to win this game. Currently an 8.5 point line. I don't think it's crazy to put a half unit on the Eagles upsetting Tom Brady and the injury-plagued Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the thing. If they're full strength, I'm rolling with the Bucs the whole way through. They were my favorite team entering the season. They were my Super Bowl pick entering the season. Now so many injuries down the stretch. Godwin, David, Barrett, all these guys starting to fade them a bit, and maybe it's the first week. Maybe it is against the Eagles.
Yeah, I like the Eagles to cover in this, at the very least. 9, especially if it is 9, 8.5, probably still like the Eagles to cover. And it's because, like you said, the Bucs are banged up. And yeah, they designated Levante David to return from IR TBD if he plays, and Leonard Fournette, again, TBD if both those guys play. But even if they do, I like this Eagles running game. I think that's one of the biggest things the Bucs defense has been built off, is that they're going to stop everyone's running game. But I don't think they do with the Eagles. I think they are built with the quarterback options that they can do with Jalen Hurts getting involved. They're built to kind of avoid Vita Vea. They don't have to punch it up the gut. You can get wide on them in this Eagles rushing attack. So I think that 9 is a lot of points at that point when you're talking about, like you said, this Bucs team just not being the Bucs with all these injuries.
4:30 kick. I think this will be one of the better games too, after obviously the game of the decade and Raiders-Bengals and the Raiders dub. But a 4:30 kick, 49ers at Cowboys. This line, I think, opened up at 4, 4.5, maybe even 5. I might be wrong there. Don't quote me on that. But it's down to 3, dude. It's been bet down to 3. People are pouring on the San Francisco 49ers as road dogs. I'm kind of shocked by that. Why are people fading the Cowboys?
I'm surprised because I like the Cowboys a lot in this one. Like a lot. This is one of my favorite lines of the weekend.
I might be high. It opened up at 3. I'm stupid.
Oh, okay,
I'm stupid.
So people are betting it up.
I'm definitely high. Dallas Cowboys was opened as a 3-point favorite, and they're currently a 3-point favorite.
And I think it's just the biggest thing to me is this is going to be very non-analytical.
I can't wait.
Personality-wise, the quarterback positions here. And just how Dak Prescott shows up in crunch time. Dak Prescott has in big situations, even in playoffs years past. Like when he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers in those 2 games that they lost in the playoffs, he played well.
Yeah.
It's just Aaron Rodgers played on another planet in those games. Jimmy G, not the same. They are going to have to win with their running game working. And I think this Cowboys defense at full strength has answers for the rushing game. So I'd like to at least slow it down. So I like the Cowboys in this one.
The 49ers are loaded, right? I mean, Elijah Mitchell, rookie, has played a lot, really well above expectation behind that offense. Their run game is great. George Kittle, fantastic. Deebo Samuel has been talked about as maybe a top 5 player in the NFL by some. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And Jimmy G, down the stretch, has been really productive in this offense. But I think you're buying them, if you do bet them plus 3, at the top of the market, right? I don't think expectations for the Niners, especially after that comeback win over Los Angeles, could get any higher. I think you bet into the Cowboys here. I like them at -3. I think Dallas wins, and I think they might win big. You know what? I'm not taking it as my dump truck. I don't know if I do dump trucks in the playoffs just because it's a little scary.
This is my dump truck.
Really?
This is the dump truck.
Wow. Okay, I'll ride with you. Double dump. 8:15, Steelers, Chiefs. I think this line opened up at 13.5. I'm going to confirm that before I start spewing trash. No, it opened up at 12.5, and it's still 12.5. Just kill me. It's 12.5. Steelers are 12.5 point dogs. Did you see? I wish I gave it to Quinn on time to include in the video. But did you see that press conference from Big Ben where he's like, yeah, I know we're probably like double-digit dogs, maybe 20-point dogs. You know, if you had to rank all the teams in the playoffs, we're probably the worst, right? And we just got to, we you know, he says, I think the quote is like, we probably don't stand a chance. Just got to go in there and have fun. I've never seen, I don't know. So the name of the video by the Steelers was Anything Can Happen. And he does say that in part of the interview. But like, if you want, from a content perspective, if you wanted to clicks here, so here's the official quote. We're probably 20-point underdogs. We don't have a chance. So let's just go in and have fun. And he's being sarcastic, right? He's not being like dark and like, yeah, this thing's screwed, but like still absurd, in my opinion, for a quarterback to say that. I've never seen shit like that before. And I know he's being sarcastic, but still, like, that is pretty freaking hilarious to come out and be like, yeah, we're not good. So this is going to be a grind. Not even like this is going to be a challenge. He's like, we don't have a chance. So let's go in and have fun. Obviously being sarcastic, but still, Big Ben, not super high on the playoff or on the Steelers going in the playoffs.
I'm admittedly not myself.
Yeah.
Either.
I mean, in Arrowhead.
I like the Chiefs to cover 12.5. They played somewhat recently, day after Christmas. Chiefs won by 26.
Yeah.
Going to Arrowhead's just difficult in the playoffs. And yeah, Roethlisberger's
been
around the block, but at this point in his career, there's no level to get to. You know, there's no second gear for him to dive deep into and find for that one last performance.
I have two things there. One, if the Steelers do cover or win, right, I think it's got to be like a look-ahead, sloppy game from the Chiefs, right? I don't see Steelers and Chiefs going toe-to-toe, 35-35 down. That's just not what's going to happen.
It's going to be like muff punt, pick six.
Fluky, bad mistakes. The other thing, what would you rank as the hardest stadium to play in on the road in the playoffs? In the playoffs, so you got to bring in the weather, right?
Okay.
Lambeau's up there for me.
Yeah, Lambeau's got to be tough.
Arrowhead's up there. Absolutely up there.
Foxborough's probably tough.
Buffalo we haven't seen a lot of in like
Buffalo
my time.
Just don't know.
Yeah, you don't really know.
Like
in the 90s, I'm sure it was insane, but like that could be another situation.
Actual AstroTurf.
Honestly, I put Lambeau up top and then probably Arrowhead at 2. I mean, those two places, the rabid fan bases, diehard fan bases, and they get cold as shit in January and February.
I will say the loudest stadium I think I've ever been in, where it was like truly the loudest, was in Atlanta. Like when you're in a dome, domes are just different levels of
loud.
Yeah. Like Atlanta.
Seattle back when they were in the Legion of Boom Air, that was a tough one.
Yeah.
What about Mile High? Because you got to deal with the cold and the altitude.
That's true. That's got to be there.
It makes kicking easier. I don't know. I don't think it's in my top 3. Monday Night Football, Cardinals, Rams. Crazy to say. Can we talk about that? We haven't talked about it. Why the hell is there a Monday Night Football game? That's such a disadvantage. The Packers are going to get if the Rams lose. I think Packers might get a team on a short week, like after resting, right? Like
whoever wins this game is gonna play next Sunday.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's
still a shorter week than the other guys.
I guess it's a shorter week.
I mean, it's also played at night. I mean, you're losing the entire Monday to prep for this next team.
Okay, well.
I don't know. I think that kind of I don't think the pros outweigh the cons. Why would you not just make it a triple header both days? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why? I literally don't understand it.
Money.
I know. Okay, fuck me. I guess you're right. It always comes down to money. A lot of people are going to watch this game. That's a fact. Cardinals, Rams. Rams favored by 4. Where's your head at?
I'm leaning Cardinals for this one.
It's down to 3.5.
I really have no handle on whatever. Like, this one's really a toss-up in my eyes. 3.5 seems like even too much. So I think that's why I'm leaning Cardinals, because I think I just trust Kyler Murray more than I trust Matt Stafford. It's like what it comes down to. Stafford's been roller coastery. I don't want to trust a roller coaster at this point in time.
He has been roller coastery, to take your words, and the Arizona Cardinals, I think, should be getting healthy for this one. I think
D-Hop playing. That's all I care about.
I think DeAndre Hopkins is playing.
If D-Hop, it says D-Hop's not playing.
Oh, well, fuck.
Okay, that's it. JJ Watt up in the air. All right, I'd flip it. Rams.
Yeah, I'm going Rams now.
No,
that was as of an hour ago, so we're not like complete idiots. But as of an hour ago, DeAndre Hopkins is not playing against the Los Angeles Rams. I like Rams. It's at 3.5 now. I think you take Rams minus 3.5. But you are. I think the forecast brought it up. You're buying the Cardinals at the bottom of the market. They have not. They haven't played well. I think there's some opportunity there, but I think Rams ultimately win this one, especially with Hopkins out.
I got an early trivia question for you guys.
Let's get right in trivia.
If Matt Stafford loses, he'll have the longest quarterback playoff drought to start a career. Or he'll tie the longest quarterback playoff drought to start a career with who?
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
That's great.
Either 0-4 or 0-5.
0-4. Andy Dalton's 0-4.
Wow. All right. Should we go trivia, then mailbag?
Yeah, let's do trivia.
Before we do trivia, can I tell you who it's sponsored by?
Yeah.
It's sponsored by Western Southern. See that little gray thing back there? Western and Southern. See the helmet? Proud partners, proud sponsors of the Tailgate Podcast. Want a chance to win the ultimate game day feast. Do you? You like to know what it's like behind the scenes with Al and Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know for your financial future? Western Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scoreboards. Every submission earns you a chance to win the ultimate feast to celebrate football's favorite Sunday. We'll cover your catering up to $2,500, coordinate your order from a restaurant near you, and have it delivered on February 13th, 2022. And don't forget to check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast and Western Southern's Instagram for answers to the best questions each week. Submit your questions with westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, that is westernsouthern.com/askchris. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. And remember, with Western Southern, you can rest assured on game day. I have a take.
Yeah.
Why does the NFL not allow people to say Super Bowl? You see how that read kind of skates around Super Bowl?
Yeah.
You're trying to promote the game that you need everybody to watch.
Or is it trademarked by someone else?
Is that what it is? Because I know I've had this conversation with people before where certain ads can't mention Super Bowl. You can't mention Super Bowl in your Doritos ad leading up, which I just think is stupid. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would the NFL not no, you get to say the name of the game we want everyone on the planet to watch. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, enough of my dumb talk. Let's get to trivia.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Trivia. We're doing a trivia show.
Yes.
So trivia on this podcast has sparked interest from other people to do trivia with us, including Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo for a podcast versus podcast trivia show that will air on Thursday. Please send the Tailgate messages or the Tailgate Twitter account DMs for your questions. It can be football, non-football, anything you want. That's going to be a treat. Me and Mike teaming up against Sam and Steve. We got to take them down.
We'll have a listener question round.
It's going to be a treat. I think it's on Thursday. It's going to be sweet. But let's get into today's trivia.
All right, let's do it. Georgia. Well, actually, so let me start with this. It's Perk. He's back.
Our king.
Weekly question.
Perk Angel.
This one's about the national championship. He says Georgia won a national championship on the back of a historic defense. Name the last 6 Georgia defenders who were first-round picks.
6 Georgia defenders who were first-round picks.
Correct. Eric Stokes.
Nice. Yep. Eric Stokes. Roquan Smith.
Yes.
We'll get there. We'll get to all of them. Shit.
I want to say they have an edge.
I know, right?
Leonard Floyd. Did he go to Georgia?
Leonard Floyd. Yeah, you got him.
6.
DeAndre Baker.
Nice.
Nailed it.
Come on.
Other defensive backs? I don't know. What about some fat DTs? Any big boys?
I'm trying to think. Back in the day there was.
How about some positions here?
Yeah, what positions we got?
Linebacker.
2 left? 2 linebackers or 1?
Oh, wait. Is one of them the guy from Pittsburgh Steelers who sucked, and then Jarvis?
Oh, Jarvis Jones?
Jarvis Jones, yep.
Nice.
One more linebacker.
One more linebacker.
Off-ball linebacker? Is that? Or just?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
I have no idea. Who is it?
I'm gonna get stuff.
Really?
Off-ball linebacker, Georgia.
What year?
2013.
Okay.
The shitty ass draft.
Oh, that was the shitty draft. 2013 linebacker, Georgia. Alec Ogletree.
Nice.
Ogletree,
nice pull. That guy stinks. All right, next question.
Name the last 3 Heisman winning QBs who lost in the national championship.
Heisman winning QBs lost in the Natty. Heisman QB lost in the Natty. So Jameis lost in the Natty, had won a Heisman, but it wasn't that year.
Is Jameis on the list?
James is not on the list.
Okay. But the way the question was worded, he technically is the correct answer.
Shut up.
I'm just going to say it. Oh, wait, no, he didn't lose in the Natty. He lost in the semis. Won the Natty.
Okay.
I'm technically wrong.
Think about just start listing Heisman winners. QBs. Manziel didn't make the Natty. RG3 didn't make the Natty.
Tyler Baker, Oklahoma never made it.
Tua made it, but won it.
Tua never won it.
Oh, Tua never won it. Burrow made it, won it.
Fuck, gotta go back then.
Gotta go deep.
Sam Bradford?
Is that an answer?
Yeah, Sam Bradford.
Yeah, Sam Bradford.
There you go.
I don't know any of these other guys. I think Heisman stuff, I know the word.
Matt Leinart?
No, not that far back.
But
Vince Young?
But no, they won. Remember they lost?
No, not that far back.
I'm an idiot.
He's one of these guys is still in the league.
Shit.
I have no idea, dude. I'm so
Plays
bad
for
with
a
the
playoff
Heisman
team.
stuff. Plays for a playoff team? Did he start for a playoff team?
No.
Oh, there we go.
Mike Glennon?
This is not a Heisman.
I have no idea, dude.
It's a
I don't
Heisman.
know.
That's a bad.
Who is it? Who are they?
Yeah, who are they?
Marcus Mariota and Bryce Young.
I'm an idiot. Marcus Mariota. Duh.
Yeah,
Bryce
Wildcat special.
Bryce Young. Next one.
All right, this is from Lance Storer, I believe is how you say it on Twitter. He says, with Black Monday claiming many head coaches, which team has had the most head coaches since 2000? Bonus, if you can name the coaches.
Raiders.
Yes.
I can go on a tear here. All these coaches: Art Shell, Tom Cable, Lane Kiffin, Jack Del Rio.
Yes.
Trying to think of some of the dog. Hugh Jackson for a couple of years was dirty.
Marco's coaching tree.
That was rough. Obviously Gruden, now Bisaccia. Rest in peace, Tony Sperano. He was an interim for a little bit. I don't know if he's going to be on that list, but he was only an interim head coach.
I got one that you don't.
Who?
Bill Callahan, right?
Bill Callahan.
Yeah.
He was a Super Bowl coach.
Yeah, he was the Super Bowl coach. Who else is left on? How many more left on the list?
Did you say Norv Turner?
I didn't. I forgot about Norv. I forgot about Norv.
Jack Del Rio.
I said Del Rio.
Did you say Dennis Allen?
I forgot about Dennis. The tits.
God, how many
Tom Cable. Did you get Tom?
I got
Cable in
Tommy.
there?
Of course, I got Tommy.
I could see
and
why
then
you
Rich
got it
Bisaccia.
10 years
Yeah, I got
ago.
Bisaccia. Did you got Tony Sperano was on that list? He was an interim for a little bit.
Yeah.
No, he's not, but I'll
That's
count it.
Fake. List is fake, dude. That
Sperano, sunglasses
string of head coaches: Lane Kiffin, Tom Cable, Dennis Allen, Art Shell, Jack Del Rio, John Gruden. I mean, this next head coach they pick, I mean, you're signing a death warrant if you don't figure it out. All right, what's the next one?
That's it. It's
All right,
either
sick.
voicemails or if you guys want to do the actual
Let's go voicemails first.
submitted ones. Okay, we'll do some voicemails. We'll go with Key Lime Fred first.
Hit me.
Hey fellas,
It's Keyline.
it's Keyline Fred once again. I hate to say it, boys, but I'm down in the dumps today. I'm a lifelong Alabama fan, and last night I had to watch the cleanest ACL tear I've ever seen in my life, followed by fucking Screech dropping nukes on top of my Tide. Not good for me. But nobody can find excuses for their teams like Keyline Fred can, which leads me to my tits. I'm not worried at all about a close victory over the Texans in Week 18 because I am firmly planted on top of the #1 seed mountaintop, and nobody is taking me off of that mountaintop unless they cut my rope and push me to my death, you son of a bitch. These tits have had a baggy shirt draped on top of them all season long. But guess what, boys? We're ready for beach season. So my question for the pod, if the Titans make it to the AFC Championship game in Nashville, are we going together or separately?
I gotta go. I have to be there. I don't know what to tell you. It's a 4-hour drive from Cincy. Keyline Fred. If they go, I'm there.
I'm going to be in Las Vegas, sadly.
Oh no, we'll both be in Las Vegas.
I know.
We're not going. So we're going separately.
Keyline.
Unfortunately.
I really wanted to go. I did really want to go if they would have played this upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
Like if they would have played this Sunday and the Bengals had the Saturday, I would have driven and gone to because I do want to see the Titans.
Did you want to see Keyline Fred?
And Keyline Fred.
Keyline Fred, an absolute friend of the show. Appreciate the submission. I love a voicemail.
Bengals could be playing at Titans.
True.
That's a very real scenario.
True.
Yeah.
Might be gone. That's a phenomenal. Key line Fred's a legend.
Green Bay that weekend.
All right, we'll go with I believe this is from Daniel.
Hey, what's up, Kings? It's your number one fan on the East Coast, Dan. Listen, a few months ago, I made a horrible mistake, and I tried to ask Sam and Sasquatch for a draft take. Biggest mistake of my life. Never going to happen again. From now on, I'm coming to Mario and Fabio for all draft-related content. Anyway, a few years ago when Isaiah Simmons was coming out, you guys got in a big discussion about eliteness versus completeness, and generally speaking, came down on the side of eliteness being more covetable. I was just wondering if we could dive a little more into that, because to me, obviously, it depends on the position. For example, Will Grier was elite at a specific type of kind of drop in the bucket throw that obviously didn't translate well to the NFL. Just recently, you were talking about a tackle who graded top 5, but the majority of that was because of run blocking, which doesn't seem as valuable as a tackle who's more well-rounded and better at pass blocking. So I was just wondering if you feel that it's more of a positional difference for eliteness versus completeness. Is it specific skill sets that matter more, or basically what you're looking for in a prospect? Anyway, I'll hang up and take the answer on the air.
Appreciate the question, Dan. That's awesome. Number one fan on the East Coast. I do think that what matters is obviously position, but also like draft slot, right? Like when you're drafting high, you're chasing eliteness, right, over completeness. Yeah. Whereas, we're going to have Nate Tice on the show here a little bit later. There are some of these guys that are complete guys that maybe you are more interested in taking outside the top 10. The top 10 is you need to take big fucking athletes, some rare elite traits. After the top 10, I do think it gets easier to, prioritize completeness over eliteness, because by the time you're outside the top 10, you're just not going to find a lot of eliteness, right? Like you're not going to find guys that have this like top end rarefied air type of talent. And that's where you go like, maybe this guy doesn't have, some of the eliteness of the guys in the top 10, but outside of that, you can start to chase completeness.
And it's eliteness in the things that are valuable. Mm-hmm. So like Jamar Chase, we talked about, he's probably a great example of that. We just kept talking like this guy wins down the football field. Like, I don't care if he doesn't have the cleanest releases, that he's not this technician that Devontae Smith is as a route runner. Go try to guard him on a go route. Go try to press him and stick with him down the football field. It's not gonna happen with that level that he has. Or if it's like on the cornerback position, I don't care if the guy isn't great in run support. How does he cover? Give me an elite cover specialist. And I think, and like defensive line, edge rusher, I don't need a guy. I don't need Cleveland Ferrell who can be solid at a lot of things. Give me Yannick Ngakoue, who can fucking rush the passer. I think is the bigger thing, is like chase the value, eliteness in the value, the more valuable aspects of whatever position it is.
You guys ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
All right, this one's from Bernie.
Hey, you guys. It's Bernie here. I'm up in Seattle. I'm freaking out, okay? I'm paranoid. I'm nervous. I'm sweating. I got the shits. Okay, I can't even put my camera on for meetings at work because I'm unshaved and I keep breaking into tears every 5 or 10 minutes. Can you guys make me feel a little better and just convince me that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are both going to be here to start the 2022 NFL season, okay? Everyone's telling me we're going to move on from one. We're going to move on from both. We're going to do a full reset. I mean, I don't get it, okay? Who would you rather have? Who are you going to bring in as an upgrade? So I'm asking you guys, if you guys were Jody Allen, what would you do if you were in charge of the Seahawks and it was up to you? Who would you want to come in and replace Pete Carroll? Who would you want to come in and replace Russell Wilson at quarterback? What would you try and get in a trade for Russell Wilson? Would you trade Russell Wilson? I mean, you see how my mind's going. I don't even know what's going on. I haven't slept. I've been crying, puking, and shitting and bleeding basically since Russell broke his finger. So it's not great out here. But if you guys could help me out a little bit, maybe just talk me off the ledge, maybe tell me Pete and Russell are going to be okay, that'd be great. Sounds good. Hey, Renner, fuck you.
Wow.
That part comes from.
I love that. Bernie comes on, just drops an absolute bomb at the back end. I love that. I think Bernie.
Well, you know what, Bernie? Russell Wilson ain't gonna be there next year.
I like that. I mean, Bernie's a big fan of the show. I think he and I DM on Twitter a handful of times. He's been listening to Tailgate /241 Drafts for a long time. With the Seattle stuff, right? If you are going to move on from Russell Wilson, you are resetting, right? Like done. Like it's not like you're not like we're moving on from Russell Wilson and chasing an upgrade in 2022 to pursue a Super Bowl. Like that's not your quickest path to a Super Bowl, right? I think it's ultimately, if they want their quickest path to Super Bowl, I think you have to keep Russell Wilson. But I think the reason this is even a rumor is that the relationship between Carroll and Wilson is not there. Is
it even Carroll and Wilson, or is it just like Russ going rogue and wanting a bigger market?
There, a relationship with Wilson, and whether it's Carroll or other decision makers in Seattle, is obviously not great, right? And Doug Kai, the reporter here at PFF, talked about on YouTube recently on the PFF Now YouTube series. He said a league source said that Russell Wilson might not even have to request a trade. They might be pushing him out because of, I think, some of this behind the scenes relationship stuff. Maybe they're ready to move on or whatever it is. If the Seattle Seahawks want to win a Super Bowl in 2022, Russell Wilson has to stay. Like, you're not getting an upgrade over Russell Wilson in this quarterback class or making a big monster trade for whoever it is. If they're looking to completely reset because they're wanting to move on from Russell Wilson, then I do think you kind of have to, obviously get as much as you can for Russell Wilson, move on from him, and then gather draft capital for what's going to have to be like a complete rebuild, right? There's no halfway here. There's no halfway. You have to either continue to build around Russell Wilson with or without Pete Carroll, or when you move on from him, take in this idea like, hey, this is a multi-year rebuild. Which do you want to be doing with Pete Carroll, who's like one of the oldest coaches in the NFL, right? I think the other part of it too is like, how much longer does Pete Carroll got?
Yeah, I don't think Russell Wilson will be there. Sadly, not just because
that's what all the smoke is saying, right? And where there's smoke, there's fire.
But I don't think he will, and I do think it started to be has become from both ends that wanting to be the case. Me personally, if I was the GM there, I would not in a million years trade Russell Wilson unless he literally said, I'm not playing. Then obviously your hands are tied. But this is what everyone's looking for. And I get he's 33 and whatever, he plays shit down the stretch, but we have enough. I don't think that's. I think I said before on this show, like it was finger related. Like it was not that he forgot how to play quarterback and looked like it was that injury that he came back from. If you come back 6 weeks earlier than everyone expects in an injury and you play like shit, that to me screams the injury was affecting your play. So that to me was the biggest thing. They also do not have a good roster. We've talked about this a lot. Defense side of the ball is just completely bereft of talent outside of Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, and those aren't your value positions that really can carry a defense. So they just need to fucking draft better. But when you have the quarterback, when you have that position, when you have that guy, you do not get rid of him at all costs. You protect it. That's why, like what I was saying with the Packers last year, it's like you cannot let those guys get out of your grasp because they just make everything else easier. When he's that level of top 5, top 10, it just makes everything else easier. You don't have to build as good a roster as you would. And then we've seen like other franchises just search for years and years and not even come close to finding a guy like Russell Wilson. So you hang on to those guys.
I mean, there are better situations for Russell Wilson to have success. I think some Giants fans are asking for him to come to New York. That's not one of them. But there are other situations where I think Russell Wilson will have a better opportunity to win Super Bowl
because Washington.
Exactly. Because the Seattle Seahawks haven't not only drafted like overly talented players with the selections they've had, outside maybe DK Metcalf or Rashad Penny, now RB1, but they haven't drafted them at high value positions, right? The LJ Collier selection on interior defensive line, he has not panned out according to expectation. Jordan Brooks, who has not played all that well, but also is a low value position. Even if he is, the next Darius Leonard or whatever, it's still a low value position. They need to get better at offensive tackle. They needed to get better along the edge, and they haven't. And that has kept them from reinserting themselves as deep postseason contenders. Not Russell Wilson, in my opinion. They move on from him, they're completely resetting, potentially across the board. If they keep him, you have to get aggressive with juicing the last few years you have. I mean, you just signed him to this monster contract. You have to make a play there. Last one, right? Or we have any more?
Yep, last one. Austin, your mom called.
Oh, this is from my mom?
Hey guys, Austin's mom here. I heard my baby boy's podcast is getting pretty popular. He sent out a number for people to call in, so I'm calling it. I'm so proud of you, baby. Also want to say that if anybody wants to call me and chat with me, especially any of you young male listeners out there, if you're single or not single or handsome or not handsome or skinny or not skinny, just call me. My number is 420-6969. I'm happy to chat. I'd love to hear from you. Leave me all sorts of messages. Just call me Austin's mom or mommy like his friends all used to, and I'll know what you're calling about. Anyway, I hope you get this, baby. Love you. One more thing.
Michael, it's not done.
Do you have any homemade what do you call it? Home remedy? Like you called it a home remedy for chlamydia you gave me that one time. Do you have any for gonorrhea? The ones you gave me before worked like magic.
Leave the show. Dude, that was the first one where I was like, oh man, that was awkward. It's funny. Good joke. Ran long, but I liked it. My mom sounds exactly like that, which is crazy. I think that might actually be her. But Quinn, I like that we fit that one in. That was the first time I heard that one.
No, that was the first time I'd heard it too. So
that was sensational. I don't know how to respond. Let's get to the questions here and the written mailbag. Remember, if you don't want to leave a voicemail like that, you can definitely jump in to Apple Podcasts or Spotify to leave a question there. That's where we'll answer those. Let's start with MMArt6767 on Apple Podcasts. Awesome podcast. These guys will make draft nerds out of anyone who listens in with their entertaining, insightful content. Hilarious, debaucherous stories. Debaucherous, sorry. Jamari Sailor, I hardly know her. UGA's left tackle for the last 2 seasons has been rock solid, both in 20 and 2021. How about to finish his career by holding his own against Will Anderson, likely twice, and making the consensus number 1 overall player on boards a non-factor in primetime? Don't forget, Ajabo didn't record a stat in the semifinal as well. Right now on boards, he's projected in the middle rounds as a guard, which is supposed to be his natural position despite taking limited snaps in college at it. Why doesn't this guy get more love? What are some of y'all's takes on Jamari Sailor at the next level, both at tackle and at guard?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the camp of I'm not super high on him. So you said mid rounds. That's probably, I'd call him a day 3, probably 4th, 5th round guard. He plays left tackle, has played left tackle for them. I do want to say the sort of Georgia fans thumping their chest that Ojabo and Hutch didn't do much against them. Ojabo was on the field for 26 snaps. They took him out because he's not great in run defense. So he was not on the field much that game. Hutchinson still played well, in my opinion. They just game planned for him. Like they knew that they weren't going to let Aiden Hutch take over that game. It was a good game plan. It worked. But Hutchinson, when he had one-on-ones, was still winning. Like in the semifinal and final, Jamari Sailor's grades were 54.8 and 62.7. So the what I'm worried about, I actually thought he was a lot better this year in terms of pass protection. Thought he was far less lungy, far more patient. But he's still kind of like stiff. He's still like flexibility in his lower half. He does not sink into blocks. I think you saw it against Michigan. Like there's a play where he climbs up to the second level to block Junior Colson, who's a linebacker from Michigan, who is 6'2", 225, and he gets stood up by this guy, 6'2", 225. That shouldn't be happening if you're a 325-pound guard, but it's just because, and you even see it like his stance, he can't sink, he doesn't sink his hips the way you would ideally like. He reminds me a lot of Missouri tackle Larry Borum from a year ago.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Where it's just like, he could play. Like, he play in the NFL for sure. I'm just not certain, like, kind of his issues are ever going to be, you're not going to get high end.
Are you worried? I think I've seen a lot of conversation about his body type, right? I mean, he's kind of got a squattier frame. I think that's why
definitely guard.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Some people are kicking. I mean, that's why a lot of people are kicking him. He's 6'4", 325. Looks like a behemoth in this picture on Georgia's website. My goodness, he is a monster. But the grades have like not been all that great. Like from a pass protection perspective, he has limited, but a lot of that has been quick game. His grading and true pass sets is not among the best in tackles here. All right, this is from Nate J. Sutton on Apple Podcasts. Is it fair to say that Vic Fangio was fired and not Ron Rivera? Wait, is it fair that Vic Fangio was fired and not Ron Rivera? Because I would say they have equal talent. Just one is defense and one is offense. See, can I say something? I love Nate J. Sutton for listening to the show and putting a question here, but like those kind of comments always like kind of blow me away. Like head coach equal in talent. Like you don't know who these fucking people are. Like, I mean, I still think it's very difficult to like judge head coaches in that light. I don't know. It's hard to say like they're equal in talent when like you don't know the decisions Ron Rivera's making. Like you don't know like his calls necessarily, right? Like, and same with Vic Fangio.
Okay. Like they themselves are equal.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially when like offense, there's just so much you don't know about Fangio's approach to how he's hiring offensive staff, how he's managing that offensive staff. Like, like you don't know that. Like head coaching is so much more difficult. And like, yeah, there are like ways to compare him in some ways, but like saying like Ron Rivera and Vic Fangio equal, I just don't know if I can get on board.
Yeah, I guess I don't necessarily understand the premise maybe because one on offense, one on defense, they're both defensive coaches. I mean, Rivera was a linebacker in the NFL, was a linebackers coach for many years. I honestly think the career arcs are like very similar as like coaches. It's just Fangio was in year 3 of his tenure. Rivera's only in year 2. So you see the same shit from Rivera next year, same kind of like disappointing season. You're getting what Fangio just got.
Yeah.
So.
Alrighty, this is from Max_Doomsday on Apple Podcasts. How do you see the second tier edge guys shaping up beyond the current top 50? Myjai Sanders looked good against Bama and is more intriguing to me than David Ajabo, who didn't do well against Georgia. Seems like Jermaine Johnson, Drake Jackson, Myjai could all make jumps with great testing. How does it stack up last year with Rousseau, Triano, Julari? Also with Myjai, he's going to test well, I believe, and also has an opportunity at the Senior Bowl to really turn it on. He's one of the more talented prospects going to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I think he could sneak in the first round should he go there and really dominate because he has that kind of tools. But I will say the second tier is way deeper this year. Like there's a lot of guys I like. I know I don't advocate for drafting, edge rushers outside of the first round, but it's more like outside of the top 50 picks. Mm-hmm. Like getting to the third round, that's when I don't feel great about those guys because the NFL is good at identifying at least the body types and the physical skill sets that win at that position, and then they go highly. So I do think second tier in this class, the guys that aren't like top 10,
like
top
the
15,
20 to 50 range.
20 to 50 range. Jermaine Johnson, Florida State, Drake Jackson from USC, Kingsley Enagbari from South Carolina, Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, Myjai Sanders obviously from Cincinnati, and then Nick Bonito from Oklahoma. I like that tier more than last year where we kind of had Greg Rousseau, Carlos Basham, Ronnie Perkins, and Peyton Turner, and like Joe Tryon in that
way
tier.
More like that tier this year.
So this tier is just like got a little bit more talent, a little more juice in that regard.
I'm with you. I'm a big fan of that second tier. We got to get Trevor Sikkema on the show because he texted me out of the blue. He's grinding the tape as well. Yeah. He said Kingsley Enagbari stinks. He doesn't like Kingsley Enagbari. We'll have to get him on the show. Discuss. This is from Jim521. How do grades go from -2 to +2 on to a 1 to 0? Fuck me. How do grades, PFF grades, go from -2 to +2? That's what we grade every single player on. -2 to +2 at 0.5 increments. So -2, -1.5, 1, etc. And go to a 0 to 100 scale for like grading, like letter grading, essentially. Also, how should we view them? Is above 90 elite, 80 to 90 great, 70 to 80 good? What's an average grade? If a player gets a 0 every play, what's his grade from that game? Can I start?
Yeah.
1, the -2 to +2 is just like an algorithm to fit it to that scale, right? That's pretty common. Like you put it on a normal distribution, you're trying to get to a situation where, players that are grading really highly are getting a lot of positives and moving that forward, you're going to move them close to the 90s. I don't think that's where the complexity is or the vagueness or the complexity is or where like the root question should be. It's what do they represent? I think that's what gets under discussed with PFF grades. They are descriptive. The 0 to 100 grades are descriptive of a game, a season, a career, not so much this player is an elite player. Like he has a 90 grade, he's an elite player. It is, they had an elite sample.
Performance.
Elite performance. Yeah, elite performance in this stretch. It's more predictive than passer rating, like year over year. It's more predictive, it's stickier, it's more stable, it's a better stat than passer rating or yards per attempt or tackles or fumbles forced. But it's not any more than like the description of those plays, right? Like you get 10 tackles in a game, you're not like an elite defender. It's like, no, you had 10 tackles in a game. You get a 90 grade in a game, you're not immediately an elite defender. You had a 90 plus grade in this game, which is obviously very positive on PFF scale.
Yeah, so the 90 plus would be at elite, 80 to 90 high quality, 70 to 80 called quality, 60 to 70 I'd say competent NFL player. Below 60 is probably like replacement level NFL player. So
not player performance.
Player performance.
Yeah.
Level of performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the -2 to +2 is just like shit, it could be anything. Like it's just a way of scaling how good a player did on an individual play. And it's like basically just like it's 4 levels of going above what you're expected to do, and then 4 levels of going below what you're expected to do. And it's so like that just, we have enough historical data, the 1 through 100 grades take into account the historical data of what's kind of expected and fit it to basically what I just said of elite, high quality, like the rarity of each of those. So that's how it works kind of. I'm honestly still not sure myself because I didn't do any of them, and it's something that may be changing at some point here.
Yeah, I think it will be changing in the future to make them, easier to understand and obviously like more predictive, right? Like the biggest goal of the PFF grades is for them to be predictive. That's all anyone cares about. Like we need the grades. Like the whole reason they were started is to try and identify metrics or a series of metrics to be more predictive than like tackles and yards per attempt. And that's like essentially what they've done with certain positions, offensive tackle, quarterback, and others, where they need to improve is some of the off-ball grading and stuff along those lines. All right, handful more questions here before we jump. This is from Harrison Duncan. PFF always advocates for trading down. Taking this to the extreme, I traded down in a mock draft simulator to construct a team. Could this lineup win a game this season? Carson Strong of Nevada, Jerrion Ealy, the Ole Miss running back, Garrett Wilson, Ohio State receiver, Trey Turner. I don't know Trey Turner. Jakari Roberson, Wake Forest, Jalen Weidermeyer, Max Mitchell, Louisiana, Zion Nelson from Miami, Chris Paul, guard, Alex Lindstrom, Jared Patterson. It's a whole long list here. Edge, Drake Jackson, Edge, Zion, Tupuola, Fatui, Perion Winfrey of Oklahoma, DJ Dale at Alabama, defensive tackle.
I'm not sure you need to read the rest.
Yeah.
The conceit was, he used the mock draft simulator and kept trading down. This is what he gathered. Now, probably the best players of this, he got Garrett Wilson. He got Carson Strong. And the thing was, can you win games with this in the NFL? It's just this lineup. And it's like, year one, no. You're not, like, your offensive line being, Alec Lindstrom, Jarrett Patterson.
You're screwed.
Those guys are like going to get, like, you're not going to have an impact player. You're just going to be bad in pass protection. You have a rookie quarterback behind a bad pass protecting offensive line. It's not good. Now, what are your chances of, from this, hitting, 4 competent starters? Probably very high.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like speaks to we like 2 players better than 1 because of how probabilities work, is the long story short.
No, and I think I was going to read through that whole list, but obviously it is a lot of just like day 2, day 3 players, right? Yeah. Like just getting guys outside the top 1. All right, this is from Toddy's Boy. 2 more questions here before we jump. Toddy's Boy on Apple Podcasts. Why didn't Tyson Campbell make your all rookie team or at least get an honorable mention? I know he struggled early in the season, but he's been great in the second half of the season, and I feel he's played better than Newsome and Stokes.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like a season award, though, is kind of the problem. He just dug too big of a hole. He gave up 412 yards in his first 5 games.
Yikes.
He was just, like you said, it wasn't good. And yeah, he wasn't good at the beginning of the season. If he played like he did the second half of the season, the whole season, he would have. So it's kind of he probably was better at second half of the season than like Eric Stokes was. But again, it's full season award.
Last thing from Mendoza QM. How would you rank the past 2 drafts first round offensive tackles? I love this question.
I do too. All right, here we go. Number 1, Tristan Wirfs. Number 2, Rashawn Slater. I'm jumping Slater over Sewell.
I think that's fair. I think it's 100% fair.
That Sewell could get there in time. Slater, you just know. Like, you take the certainty, bird in the hand, worth 2 in the right tackle.
What?
I was trying to.
I hated that.
I hated it too. All right, number 4, Andrew Thomas. Giants left tackle. He played a lot better this year, obviously injured, but he was very good in pass protection this season.
That was your preseason OT1.
Yeah.
And I know Tristan Wirfs is obviously past him. He's ahead of him there. But like
they were 8-9 on PFF draft board. They were tight.
They were tight. But I do think after the first year, some people were like, are you high? Yeah. Some people wanted Wills ahead of him, Becton ahead of him, but he's kind of panned out better than maybe people expected.
I also have a take that I'll save, but like buy Giants offensive lineman futures. Like go sign Will Hernandez this offseason because they were just so poorly coached that you can't be worse. They're going to be better wherever they go next. 5, go Mekhi Becton. He was that good as a rookie. Obviously gets injured, I believe, the very first week. Didn't play again this season, but I still believe Jedrick Wills, like all 6 of those guys, Jedrick Wills at number 6 here, you got your money's worth. Those were good picks, all of those. Number 7, Christian Darrisaw. And honestly, he's been very good too. I'm encouraged if I'm a Vikings fan from what I saw from here. But then there is a clear tier of those 7. It's probably a clear tier of 6 than Darisaw in his own tier. And then there's like this tier of shit. Oh shit is more what I meant, like TBD. And it's Alex Leatherwood at 8. And I'm probably going to catch some shit for this, but I think Isaiah Wilson at 9, even though he obviously isn't on an NFL roster right now. The Tennessee Titans off tackle. But it's because Austin Jackson, you are still having to pay him for him to play like shit. You don't have to pay Isaiah Wilson anymore. So Austin Jackson's at number 10.
Rough. You put Isaiah Wilson ahead of Austin Jackson?
Yeah, because the money's gone. Austin Jackson, you're still like feeding, hoping.
Dolphins fans, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. That's rough. I mean, I think the bigger takeaway from that, outside of dunking on Isaiah Wilson and Austin Jackson, is this tackle class has been sick, these last 2. And this upcoming one is dope. I mean, there's still a lot of talented tackles. Charles Cross, Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, some really talented offensive linemen in this upcoming class. Let's get to now the interview with Nate Tice from, obviously, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, on Twitter, a legend on the show. Now joining in, Tailgate is an absolute friend of the show and a treat online. You have to follow this guy on Twitter, Nate Tice, Nate_Tice on Twitter. You also probably heard him on the fantastic, The Athletic football show. He also has a Substack, Silent Count, that I know you're grinding to get some more content on here in the near future. Now that it is the offseason and it is draft season, Nate, it's always great to get you on the show. Really appreciate it.
No, I know. Sorry, anyone that has subscribed to the Substack. It'll be a little more frequent. It's quality over quantity at this point in time. That's what I'm trying to sell. But thank you. I think in wrestling terms, what you just did is you put me over. You really know how to sell me. And yeah, I feel like I'm ready to go for the belt now. So I appreciate that intro, Austin.
If anything, I forced you to put some more content out. Your Silent Count subscribers like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready now. Now you're on it. Now you have to do it.
Once I had a reply going like, hey, I really enjoyed this, but when's your next one? And I was like, okay, I got you, man. I got you. Pump something out. Protections, sure. So hoping this offseason will be a little more frequent for anybody that is wondering. Something
I didn't even mention in the intro, and a big reason why we want to get you on, is you also do a lot of the scouting for Bleacher Report's NFL draft efforts. I think you do quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. That's definitely something I want to touch on, especially in this year's wide receiver class and in this year's quarterback class. I think there's going to be a lot of really good conversation. But let's turn back the clocks a little bit, focus on last year's draft and the rookies going in. Where I'd want to start, honestly, is I know we had you on this show before the 2021 NFL draft, and you were one of, I think, few people that had Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase. And he has been phenomenal this year. Both have, right? Devontae Smith has been absolutely outstanding for the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously, Jamar Chase, probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been outstanding. Did you see this coming, right? Like, Mike Renner was as high on Jamar Chase as anyone. And I don't even know if you saw this coming, right? Like, this has been an absurd, obviously, NFL record-breaking season for Jamar Chase, now paired back up with Joe Burrow. Did you see this coming? And I guess just how shocked are you of this rookie season for Jamar Chase?
That was what was so fun about that class last year, was those top 4 guys. To me, I'm including Bateman in there and Waddle, of course, is all of them had lottery pick grades, like all of them going in the top 15, top 16. Like, it was like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Like that's what was so cool about that class. And with Chase, it was the one hesitation I had with him was like, oh, will he be able to play bully ball in the NFL? Well, he can.
Yeah.
And he answered that week after week. He was able to answer that. So I was like, okay, yeah. And then even in my write-up, like I was going back, it's really funny just rereading the stuff already. I'm kind of glad that's publicly known, because like even in my write-up, I'm like, if he wins that stuff though, like he's going to be a touchdown machine, because it's like his body control is outstanding. And it's been really cool. Like his after the catch stuff, he has more juice to him than I even gave him credit for. Yeah. I thought he was good and he tested really well, but last year's testing numbers, I was kind of like, everything had a grain of salt last year. It was a little like everyone had a little bit of home field advantage on those, but he plays that speed. So it's been cool. I still think Devontae Smith is going to be up there as well. Like, but that's the thing. And of course, Waddle break the receptions record. And then Bateman, when he played, was very effective. It was just that he battled a lot of injuries this year. I think all those guys are going to be like, not only like good players, but like Pro Bowl contenders, which is really cool with the receiver class, even comparing it to the year before. But it honestly, this is what they are. And that's actually, you already hinted at this year's class. There's so much discussion on it. And some people are like, oh, it's not top heavy. just talking about the whole class, I actually think that makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, hey, what do you see? And like, really, it's like, you can sell yourself on all these different guys, receiver, quarterback, even running back as well, and tight end, actually. That's a decent tight end class in the middle rounds. So it's like, but just going with those positions, it's like now you kind of see what the eye of the beholder is and maybe who's actually watching what, which is going to be really fun.
One thing I love that you do on the Bleacher Report draft boards is put a grade to these guys that transfers year on year on year. And so like last year you had Devontae Smith, wide receiver 1 with an 8.9. This year though, you have a guy with a higher grade. I've been saying that last year's class is kind of a unicorn with 3 guys at the top. I didn't think any of these guys in this year's class could touch that trio, but you have Drake London, the USC wide receiver, with a 9.0. So that you see him as a better prospect than anyone coming out in last year. What do you see from him that has sold you on that higher grade?
Size. And that was the thing. I don't really like taking receivers in the top 8, top 10, unless they are big freaks. Like I know that's easy to say with the Julio Jones.
I think
Calvin
any position,
Johnsons.
right? Big freaks. That's what everyone wants.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, as much as I love Devontae Smith and even my write-up, all those top 4 guys are just gushing write-ups. All of them, I even have the caveat and all of them going like, well, the size is why I didn't put it, because our 9.0 is top 10 pick. Like lock top 10, doesn't matter, scheme proof. That's how I view it. So like Devontae Smith, it's like he's, built like a rail. And Jamar Chase, he was 205 playing bully ball. So it's like, it's not that 6'3", Julio Jones freak kind of guys. Drake London though, and the number one thing kind of going against him is people are going, oh, it's separation stuff. He is so much more of a fluid athlete than I think he's getting credit for. Not only just the yards after the catch, but like when he's running a route, everyone keeps saying the separation stuff. I don't see that because the quarterbacks are late on every throw. Like they're hitching 3 times and then they throw it. So now, the separation isn't there, but he generated that separation. I just think with size, his ball skills, I just defer to bigger receivers. I just think he's one of those guys that's more scheme proof than maybe these other guys that sometimes with size, they get into a place where they have to be the guy. Oh, they might have some issues right away, but they're still like lottery pick talents. It's just Drake London with the size, the athleticism that he has, the ball skills. The route running is better than I even was originally thinking that would be. Like he's a legit can sink because he's such a good athlete, and he can actually catch a screen and take it the distance because he has such good body movement. It's like I think that's kind of more of a complete package. It's more of a flavor thing, but it's just what I kind of defer to. It's like I would take this guy in the top 10, more 8, 9, 10 than number 2 or 3, but this is the type of guy I see in that kind of range.
I want to focus on some of the other receivers. I love how high you are on Chris Olave. Chris Olave, the Ohio State receiver. I'm a big fan of Olave's game, but I want to know if you have heard Mike's comp for London. Have you heard Mike's comp?
No.
Mike.
Brandon Marshall.
Yes, and I can see it. I think that's the thing with yes. Like more than I think I put him at Mike Evans because I was just being lazy. He has more yards after the catch ability than Mike Evans. Like Mike Evans is straight line, and so that's where I see that Brandon Marshall to him. Like it's just because Brandon Marshall would throw guys off of him and then just get upfield really quick. So I see that completely. And that's why I'm so high on him. Is that you put him in any type of offense, he's gonna perform because he's gonna be a mismatch. Like there's not many corners that just have that size and athleticism to stick with him. That's why it's that's what Brandon Marshall was in his peak, right? It was basically, how do you guard this guy for 60 plays?
I mean, when I was a kid, a big Raiders fan, Brandon Marshall, every single time when he was with the Broncos, would just put us in an absolute blender. That guy was incredible. He had that single game receptions record, I think, I don't know if it was against the Raiders, but it felt like it was. Right. It felt like it was. And Drake London, you look at the box score this year, right? Even just looking at the box score, targets and receptions were absurd. Like you talk about
20 targets, 15 receptions.
And people mention the separation stuff, right? Which I think is lazy because he's so big and they're like, oh, he can't do it because he's this big. You are going to separate when everyone knows you're getting the ball, right? I mean, you're getting the ball 20, you're getting targeted 20 times and they still can't stop you. They still can't cover you. These Ohio State receivers. You have Chris Olave as your wide receiver 2, Garrett Wilson, who's the other kind of phenom coming out of Ohio State. You have him as your wide receiver 6 right now behind Jameson Williams, Jahan Dotson, and Treylon Burks. Explain the differences between those prospects and I guess why you're higher on Olave over Wilson.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on Wilson than I think others are because I do think he has more of a ceiling than a lot of these other guys, but I also think he has more bust potential. He struggles a little bit against press, which is always just a little alarm bell for me. some guys struggle with it because they just don't see it every week. But like a game against Penn State where he was productive, he did have like times where every time they pressed him, he was just getting rocked back. But his ball creation, like his creation after the catch, is so good. Like he is a truly dynamic player. It's just that I see more bust potential with him than others, but I still give him like a legit first round grade. And that's like, I speaking to how good these classes are, I'm a pretty tough grader on receivers. And when I first started doing this thing for the Bleacher Report, I'm like, I'm barely going to give these guys first round grades. And then I'm giving like 5 guys a year because these classes are so good. But like, that's how I see Wilson just a little lower, but he has that potential to be like a Brandon Ayuk type, where it's like he catches the ball on a slant. It's like he can take it. Like he has that dynamic ability. It's just, I think it might be a little rougher go for him. Like I wouldn't want to draft him and go day 1, you're getting 10 targets, 12 targets a game.
Yeah.
I'd be more like, hey, let's make him a number 2 and ease him in if we have like another vet to play with him, maybe like a Chargers with Keenan Allen or something like that. On the flip side, like Olave is just like plug him and play. Like I compared him to Calvin Ridley, and I stand by that one because just his route running ability, his ball skills, like he has body control. He can create after the catch. He's not just a slow 4-5-8 guy. Like he actually can like make stuff happen after the catch and make a guy miss. I just think he's a total package, and honestly, just like a no-brainer. Like I think his floor is so much higher than a lot of these other guys, and then his ceiling is still pretty good as well. I really just see him as a plug and play type. Like whoever gets him is like, okay, we're good. Like he's our Z receiver for the next decade. He might have that high ceiling, but I think it's like he's really just scheme proof and really, I won't say bust proof because no player is, but just has a lot to him. He's like a pros pro kind of guy.
Yeah, Olave I think is like almost an easy evaluation because it's just like he's good.
Also,
like,
a lot of tape, right? He's played a lot.
Exactly. Like you just like kind of know at this point. I want to transition though to the quarterback.
He runs all the routes, so it's not like you go like, oh, he only runs 2 routes. It's like, no, he's running like legit NFL routes. So you're like, yeah, okay, there he is. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned Ridley too. I dropped like a tweet. I remember tweeting like about Olave before the season. He's a Calvin Ridley clone. Like he's a Calvin Ridley clone. I think that I see that comp with you as well. Go ahead, Mike.
I wanted to transition to the quarterback class and go back to the rookies here. Not this year's one quite yet, but the rookies. Last year, going into the draft, you had them ranked Trevor Lawrence 1, Justin Fields 2, Trey Lance 3, Zach Wilson 4, Mac Jones 5. Have you seen anything from this rookie tape to adjust those rankings?
You got to bring up Davis Mills.
I'm not gonna.
Davis Mills, yeah.
Not bringing up Davis Mills. How would you re-rank them now? Those 5.
I would maybe have. Man, I feel pretty good about that. I would maybe have Mac Jones, closer to Zach Wilson, more than like 4A, 4B, as opposed to 4 and 5. Actually, it's kind of been like, it sounds cocky, but it's like kind of been how I thought they would kind of play out. Trey Lance showed so much more in this last start that against Houston that makes me go like, okay, that's kind of what we're seeing at North Dakota State, not that first start where it was like, okay, it was up and down against the Cardinals. But I really kind of see it the same way. I think the blemishes that Trevor Lawrence has had just been the situation. Watching him on film it's ridiculous what he can do. Like his processing is so advanced, his pocket movement, his eyes, and then on top of it, he's 6'5", 6'6", really, and like a really good athlete. Like that's what we keep under. We always say it. It's one of those like when Andrew Luck would run, everyone's like, he ran a 4.65. Remember that? It's like, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Like he can move and do all those things. I think Fields really came on second half of the year. I think just getting a better offense around him that's not West Coast throwing it quick, like actually letting him push the ball and do what he was. He's just going to be a big game hunter, which is what we kind of knew out of Ohio State. But big plays and sacks, like that's what he's going to be. He's a bigger Russell Wilson. Like that's what he's going to be. Like maybe a little better pre-snap. I already talked about Trey Lance, and then Zach Wilson. I kind of was always fearing that it would be a harder transition, not just because he's come from BYU, but just how he operated there. He had a lot of plays where he was creating out of pocket, out of structure. He has to learn to kind of like hang in there in 1 to 2 to 3. So I'm still not like down, like, oh, he's a bust. But it's like, I kind of figured that's kind of like how it would be. It takes some time for him to acclimate to the NFL, and they threw him into the fire every week. Like it's not Justin Fields getting to sit out for 2 weeks. They're like, Zach Wilson, go. Like, you're our guy. We have no backups. Go. Like, which is not ideal, what you want for a rookie quarterback. And then Mac Jones, I think, especially as the weather's gotten colder, we've kind of seen some of his limitations, but his processing and everything is so good, in which I compared him to Chad Pennington, and I still stick by that. Like, I think that's just really what he's going to be, just a good starter like once in a while makes a Pro Bowl with what's around him, but just like a good solid starter at the quarterback position. So long story short, I feel the same.
Long story short, Nate Tice is perfect. So that's where we're at.
I know. There's not much I would change. I know that's what stinks. It's not like, oh yeah, this. It's just feel the same.
No, I completely agree with you in terms of how you would see it. I wouldn't change. Like everyone, Mac Jones has obviously played the best in terms of just pure statistically. But do you think like not moving up Mac Jones above any of this four because this is just it with him? Like there's no other place for him to go. Is that why?
Yeah, it's like his room to grow. Like he can still get 5% better, but the other guys can get 20% better. Yeah. Like, and pass him. And I think he just had the perfect situation. I just think as this season went along, you kind of saw everyone, once the tape gets out there, everyone starts learning what you're doing. Like it's inevitable. You would just want to see how the guys transition off of that. You could see him creating the Colts game was like a really good game. That's kind of like his high upside and downside. First half, Colts were squeezing on everything. They're like, they knew exactly where he's going to go. He had to start double clutching the ball. That's not how he wins. But in the second half, all of a sudden he started pushing the ball. And it was like, oh, okay, there you go. There it is. He's starting to hit some overthrows and some tougher throws. But that's the thing is the other guys, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones, it's like he has that downside where what if he gets some O-line injuries and all of a sudden that like he's getting pushed in the pocket, like the other guys can create off of it. So that's kind of like, it's you talk out both sides of your mouth with him, and but it's tough with him because it's like, no, he's good. It's just that the other guys might get better. Yeah. and especially once everything slows down around them and they don't deal with Urban Meyer as a head coach.
And I think some of that is also reflected in some of the grading, right? I think weeks 1 through 8, Mac Jones was like a top 5 graded quarterback according to PFF. And then since then, I think he's bottom 5. Like he has really fallen off towards the back half of the season according to PFF's charting. So I think you've seen some of that. I think you mentioned as the weather has gotten colder, so has Mac Jones. I want to use that as a transition to talk about this year's quarterback class, and something Mike brings up, which I think Bleacher Report does a great job, or you do a great job of, is these numbers, right? These like grades next to these players. You have Desmond Ridder, the Cincinnati quarterback, hometown quarterback here, as the number 1 quarterback, but not just that, an 8.4, right? Ahead of Kenny Pickett, who's a 7.7. Matt Corral falls off even further at 7.3. You see Desmond Ridder, at least right now, an arm and a leg, really, from the outside looking in at this, at these grades, ahead in this quarterback class. I guess speak to that evaluation.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to show. So it's good that like even without me explaining it, you're like, yeah, you have a chunk
There's
between
a gap.
Because that's what I wanted to kind of like show with these guys is I think Ridder has more to him than we've given him credit for. Like and I've had plenty of Twitter threads on it. And I'm gonna be latched onto him for the rest of my life. But I think with Ridder is once you start watching tape on him, you start appreciating the little things that he does. I think a lot of in our head what we have about him is, oh, he's a good athlete, and then he's not really a quarterback. Watching him this year, what was good is I got to dive into him this year kind of fresh. I watched one game of him last year, two games last year, and then watched him fresh this year. His processing is so good. Like he actually has advanced level. He gets to the number 2, the number 3 reads, and he shortcuts reads. I actually was texting a friend about this morning, is that shortcutting the read is, okay, it's not going 1 to 2 to 3. It's knowing 1 is dead and 2 is probably going to be dead because of the coverage, and I get to 3. He's doing that with these concepts, and it's like they're real NFL concepts. Like it's not a lot of gimme throws for him. They do some quick game. They have this little RPO that they like, but it's not. They don't base the whole offense off that. And on top of it, he's a really good athlete. I'm going to guess he runs like a more mid 4.5, something of that sort. He's tough. He's got he layers the ball. He knows how to kind of like get it over intermediate defenders. He knows how to drive the ball. I would say the only downside is that at the beginning of the games, he gets a little too amped up. And I think you can see it best in the Notre Dame game. The first drive, he sprays 2 throws. And you're like, what the hell was that? And then after the game, he settles in. And it's like all of a sudden he's just hitting seam benders. Mike knows. He hits seam benders right against them. Yeah, you remember some of those throws. And then you see the athleticism. He's pulling away from guys. And Notre Dame has good talent on their defense. It's like, ooh, okay. You watch the Bama game. They let him loose in the second half. The first half, everything's so tight. Like everything, just the whole offense. But then all the other guys, like Pickett, while I'm a little more – I compare Pickett to Taylor Heineke, which is not a knock. It's kind of like I just want a perspective of what he is. He creates a lot of the stuff, though, in structure isn't what I wanted to see. Like his stats were great. You love him as a football player. But I thought his processing would be a little more advanced for a guy that's going to be 24-year-old rookie. It's that like he goes one and done with his reads, which sometimes could be an alarm bell. Sometimes it's like, oh, that's just the offense they're in. But like with him, it's like those are reads that he can keep progressing from the pocket. Like he looks to start scrambling a little bit too quickly, like for what I like. And yeah, you never know. Like in the Senior Bowl, they talk to him. They go, oh, that's just the offense he was in. But he was with Mark Whipple, who runs NFL stuff. How they kind of game plan their stuff. He had a good old line, it looked like. He had good receiving talent. So he's in a better situation. So I was kind of, I don't know to say disappointed, but more like he's fine. He's solid as a prospect, but not someone I would take in the top 20. And that's kind of why I did the grade how I graded it. See him as more of a middle second guy. The other guy's Corral, like RPO monster. It's really just watching him progress too. And that's a whole thing. Is it because he can't or because he won't? Is it kind of like, is this just the offense that he's in, or is it because they ran that offense because they're trying to hide that he can't do the other stuff? Like that's trying to figure out with those types of guys. And I think Malik Willis is really fun, but just has long way to go before he can be like an NFL quarterback, just because the offense he was in, how he progressed, how his pocket movement is. He's a great athlete, but like he created a lot of his own sacks because he would work back in the pocket, and that's in college. So now imagine the NFL when guys are really fast and really big, like that can be a little bit of an issue. But if someone takes him in like the second or third, it's a project. Like in that, it's not. But if you take him in the first, you're holding on to your hat. Like whoever drafts him's got to, really hope that he comes on pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think they actually got back to Ritter. That got underrated throughout this season with Cincinnati, that he was playing behind a dog shit offensive line in terms of pass protection. He was saving them in a lot of those games by being as quick as he was in them. So that was something that, like, a lot of these guys we see playing at like Oklahoma, Alabama, they don't have
They're hanging out.
Exactly. They have that time. Desmond Ridder did not have that advantage. So how high, he's obviously QB1, how high you, a GM, would you be willing to take this guy to say, hey, this is my franchise quarterback. You have, XYZ pick in the draft. What's the highest you're willing to go take Desmond Ridder?
It's always the half round grade inflation. So I have like a late first on him. So yeah, like the teens. But if I took, he still has his blemishes. Like that's the thing. He's not a perfect prospect. Like if you relay him to the grades we had last year, I have him just below Wilson but above Mac Jones. Because I think there's still upside to be tapped there. The improvement he showed this year is ridiculous, like compared to what he was before. But I would say the early teens. I think the Broncos are they 11 or 9? I don't know where they're at, but like that early kind of teen slot, I would actually take him. I actually think that's a guy that I would take a chance on over the other guys, because I just think what he's shown is already cool. He's shown that he's a psycho competitor and works hard, because like you don't improve that much just by luck. And he's a good athlete. He seems like a good kid. I don't know anybody personally, but it's kind of like, and there's more room to growth. There's more room for growth. He's not a finished product already. So that's why I would take him a little, you get the half round grade inflation with quarterbacks. That's just how it goes. So I'd say early teens though. That's one guy I would take a chance on.
Being here in Cincinnati, I know that they rave about his personality. He's a guy that's, I think, already married. He might already have a kid. He's settled in. Yeah. And also, I remember talking to Mike Warren, their former running back, and he said the biggest trash talker on the team is Desmond Ridder. It's not even close. So I think on the football field, there's maybe some fire to him as well. I'm actually
want your quarterbacks to be psycho.
Exactly.
It's an understated thing. You want your quarterbacks to be a little bit off, like just a little bit psychotic.
What's funny is I'm actually talking to him in like an hour and a half. I have an interview scheduled with him soon, so I'll make sure to bring that up. Hey, are you a psycho? No, but
you're right.
Nate, I really appreciate
you. Hide it.
Yeah,
you know how to hide it.
You have to hide it. You have to hide it. Nate, this has been fantastic as always. I really appreciate you jumping on the show. And like I said before, follow Nate Tice on Twitter. You can't miss him. You can't miss him. This guy, Nate_Tice on Twitter, has a Substack that's going to be turning out, I think, like 6 to 10 articles per day here in the next few weeks. And then Bleacher Report, all that stuff. Nate, thanks again for jumping on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. This is a lot of fun.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tailgate. Absolutely loaded, dude. Nate Tice coming on. Obviously went through the wild card games. All that stuff was an absolute treat. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you get your podcasts. Go to speakpipe.com/tailgate to leave your voicemails. Go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify to leave your reviews. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Quinn, Mike Renner, Tailgate.